Hello and welcome to today's video. So I'm joined by Justin Marriot for Paperback Fanatic himself, and we're here to launch the latest issue, number 48. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay then, so let's have a look at this latest issue 48. Now this is a pre-production copy here. This is not for sale, but this is very, very similar to what it's going to be when it's actually finally produced. And it is a gorgeous wraparound cover with some tempting covers inside. And you designed this one yourself, Justin, is that right?
Yes, I did. I get a lot of input from an American designer called Bill Cunningham. I think you've done videos of his Men's Adventure Quarterly.
Absolutely,
that he does. So he's my mentor who tries to keep me on the straight and narrow, make it as loud and as attractive to the eye as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, and I just love Rodent Mutation. Is that just the best Badger cover ever? I think, you know, it's a beaver, isn't it, on the front?
Yes.
Giant beaver. Brilliant. Well, let's get straight into it. So it's about, is it 70 pages?
Just over.
Over. Yeah, brilliant. And Justin's introduction there, and we're straight in with a look at Steve Holland's Beyond the Void. Have you read your copy of this yet?
Yeah. Most of it.
Yeah.
I had the original Badger Tracks newsletter, the photocopied one from Steve that I've referred to many times.
Yeah.
And Steve really is the godfather of British paperback research as far as I'm concerned. So I was delighted to chat to him about the book.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's a great book, and it comes highly recommended. Yeah, he took as many as he could carry to the London show, and was sold out within, like half an hour, I think. When
I got it through, I was just really impressed. The actual book, really impressed by the quality of it, the reproductions. It's a sumptuous tribute to Badger, really.
Absolutely, yeah, no, really nice. And then Steve's favourite Badger covers there, including Beyond the Void, where the book gets its title from. Curiouser and Curiouser chats to the Fanatic about Biblio Curiosa. So this is something I didn't know a lot about. So what's all this then, Justin?
So Chris is the editor of that fanzine based in Australia. Yeah. He's got a real pedigree in fanzine publishing, and I've interviewed him about Biblio Curiosa, which is him taking a really detailed deep dive at, as much as anything, the eccentric characters that wrote books, and also strange and unusual books from the last century. Brilliant. It's an absolute education. Every issue I pick up is something new. It's brilliant.
It certainly looks really interesting. That looks great. Some readers' letters now. Yeah, comments on the previous. Do you get much like fan mail or people writing in?
Unfortunately not anymore. Before, when I used to print in a traditional manner, i.e. go to a printer and collect the copies and post them out, I almost knew everyone's name and address off by heart. And it felt like I had a personal connection with the readers, and they would write to me, and I was always very proud of extra information that I could publish through letters. Since using Amazon, I think people kind of consider their relationship with Amazon rather than me, and it's more about online reviews than anyone writing directly to me.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, well, it's a couple of letters there, which is okay. And we've got Scott Carlson here, illustrated checklist of novels by Consellers, which were reprinted without credit as Powell Tiger books. Was it piracy or a deal? Consellers with Powell. We'll never know. Well, there you go. Some nice, interesting, colourful covers again. Some good stuff. And that's the thing, you see so much here that you've never seen before. You don't realise that people collect. Certainly loads of American stuff I've never cast eyes on. That's always great stuff. Then we got Tom Taser on paperback art by comic book artists, which is a really great theme in actual fact. And I see the stuff on Wally Wood as well. And there's been some great ones over the years, hasn't there, that turn their hand to paperback jackets, which is cool, but I do like Wally Wood stuff. My little look at eBay. eBay prices for the recent, the last sort of quarter really, late 23 to early 24. Some interesting prices, wouldn't you say?
Well, that always gets me scuttling off to my bookshelves and picking up things I bought for 50 pence at a market stall 30 years ago and kind of going,
Wow.
What? How much is someone paying for that now?
It is quite incredible. And we were just talking now about that big Warren and Wignall massive paperback collection that was auctioned recently, and there is definitely a market for some of this stuff, and some of the prices are, well, outstanding, aren't they? They're just incredible, really. Okay, fiction before fact. This is like a little sub part with the Sleazy Reader, really. So obscure sleaze paperbacks that were investigated by the FBI in connection with the Patty Hearst kidnapping. So that's pretty specific subject there, and some good, nice illustrations here again. Now the Horwitz paperbacks. Now, this is something which I don't know a lot about. These are Australian, aren't they?
Absolutely, and I would see them. I think the way we regard maybe New English Library in the UK as a bit of a rough and ready, trend-led publisher.
Yeah.
Horwitz is very much Australia's equivalent.
Makes sense,
highly collected in Australia, and some of their more outrageous and sleazy titles are becoming more collected in the UK. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, interesting. Gothic romance, haunted love. I don't know. I have maybe 2 or 3 Gothic sort of romances. I love the look of them. I could never read them, but boy, do I love the look of them. I think they're brilliant. They really are.
The covers are beautiful, aren't they?
They are just the business. I can imagine people collecting them just for that, rather than the content.
Please don't. I read them, so you don't have to. It's my public service.
Oh yeah, just so good. Now, these are also quite. Now, I'm very tempted to pick up the Fox series. These are New English Library, and I'm a fan of naval fiction, but I've never read any of these. So I am tempted to pick up the first couple and see how I get on. I was always, when I was growing up, I was also a fan of like Hornblower, and in later life, I got into the Julian Stockwin Kids series because he's like a local author to us, and the Patrick O'Brien's as well. They're a great series, but these. Perhaps, I mean, I don't know. What would you think? I mean, are they worth a try?
It depends in the way that the Edge paperbacks, the Western series, maybe wouldn't appeal to purist Western fans. I think the Fox series won't necessarily appeal to purist, naval adventure fiction.
They're quite interesting.
They're pretty rough-hewn and violent.
Yeah.
Although Ken Bulmer, the well-known science fiction author, is the guy behind the pen name, who would do his research. So I think give them a go. The early covers were by Richard Clifton Day, who's my favourite cover artist, are brilliant, and then William Francis Phillips then took over and did some of the very detailed battle scenes. And I know, Jules, I know you're a fan of Phillips due to his pan work.
Absolutely, I love his work, I'm going to give them a try. On the back of this, I'm definitely going to hunt those down. I doubt they're too difficult to find. I wouldn't have thought. Brilliant then. Robot Roy Nugan on Fred Olen Ray, filmmaker with a strong affinity to pulp fiction, and who also even penned some of his own. This is John Peel, isn't it, on the James Bond movie tie-ins, isn't it?
Yeah, John's a brilliant writer.
Absolutely,
his reviews are very erudite and articulate, so I'm always very pleased to run any of his writing.
Absolutely, little did I know that we'd be in the same magazine when I was reading his Doctor Who adaptations back in the 80s, Fantastic. And he's such a nice guy, isn't he, as well? He really is. Vault of Pulp horror here. Tom looking at Pulp's dissecting the May 1936 issue of Weird Menace to Ace Mystery Magazine. Look at that. I bet that's a few pounds, isn't it? That one, that original.
Tom's got a lovely collection of pulp magazines. He's based in America, so he gets to go to the Windy City convention and pick up his pulps.
Lovely.
There, and I think with the Weird Menace pulps, again, he does us a public service by reading them, so we don't have to. And he gives very funny and humorous summaries of the story. So thanks for what you do, Tom.
Brilliant. So the horror. Steve Carroll on horror in paperbacks. Well, there's so much, isn't there? It's a massive area. it's not my favourite genre. I think I prefer the SF. But I read so much horror as a kid, so I always look back and think, oh, is that one that I may have read in the 70s and early 80s?
And Steve, I think Steve is an ordained minister.
Is that
right? So
yeah.
I quite like the fact that someone with very strong spiritual beliefs is writing about schlocky horror fiction.
Absolutely.
But it's a nice article with Kolchak, the Night Stalker, the TV series tie-ins, and how it might have related to other books. A really nice article.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, some comic book art there. Excellent. And then Hot Lead, well, that's the Western, which I absolutely loved. Every issue of Hot Lead. It actually got me to read Westerns that I'd never read before, and I loved it. I really did love it, the Hot Lead.
Cool.
You know.
It's interesting. When I did Hot Lead as a fanzine, a number of kind of people whose opinions I really respect were like, Justin, why are you doing this? No one's interested. But actually, it's turned out to be one of the best-selling publications that I've done, and I hope to return to it one day.
Oh, I hope you do another 100 reviews or something like that. Would be fantastic. Yeah, certainly. I don't have a massive Western collection, but on the back of that, I ended up reading loads more than I ever would have. So, and the two, I think I read a couple of early pans that were Westerns.
Oh, right, okay.
Like Western Union, for example, Zane Grey.
Yeah.
That, you see that book all the time, but I've never read it, and it was so good.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Zane Grey, I think.
No, it was really good. Some of the look at the Men's Adventure magazines, and the new Lawrence Block book there. This is just this is a growing sort of area of people having a look at this stuff now, isn't it? And they're mining the contents that was in the Men's Adventure magazines.
I think that's a good way of mining. It's a good way of describing it, because I think Bob and Bill, who do the Men's Adventure quarterly, and also Wyatt, who does New Texture with Bob, have got amazing. Bob's got an amazing collection of what we might call the sweat mags, the Men's Adventure mags. But because they got such sleazy packaging, it's easy to write them off. But actually, you've got, for instance, Lawrence Block writing for these, or Mario Puzo of The Godfather. So bit by bit, they're actually putting back into print some of these very obscure stories, and if you take them at face value, they're good entertainment.
Absolutely. The latest issue, which is the Vietnam one, was really enjoyable. A really good read. That now another a great subject, and I thought this is so good. It's the sharks. So looking at, I guess this is on the back of Jules, wasn't it? The Jules Mania, if there was such a thing. I mean, I sort of remember Jules Mania. In 76, 77.
Hell yeah! It dictated by the 70s. You know, seeing Jaws and reading Hookjaw in action comic. I was totally obsessed with sharks. And James lives in Australia, where everything is trying to kill you, including great white sharks. I thought it was a particularly apt piece for an Australian to write. So really pleased to run that.
Some terrific covers there as well. Killer sharks, the real. Like she's just stumbled into his mouth.
In 1 foot of water. What are the chances?
Brilliant stuff. Excellent. Then my little piece on the Panther crime bands, which I think since I've got this, I've managed to track one more down, but they are few and far between. But I love collecting them. You know, when you get a few of them together, they start. You know what it's like? You just, they look quite nice, and I'd like to see if I could get all of them. And then before you know it, you're down that path, aren't you? You're trying to get them all.
And Jules, I was delighted with the article, because sometimes it's easy to think, I've been collecting paperbacks for a long time, I know everything, and then your article comes along, and I'm like, oh, I know nothing. Like, what are these books? I've never seen them. Why aren't I collecting them? So I think that's kind of like the surprise of the issue for me, the information in there.
Oh, well, that's well, thank you. Yeah, it's really, really good to hear. I've always sort of said I'm a bit of a unique collector because I collect by publisher in a lot of ways. I do collect authors, but imprints within a publisher is also a little bizarre. You know, you could say it's a little bit niche, but I just love it. I think it's starting to collect Penguins when I first started by publisher, and then Pans. It's just a continuation of that, really.
And I still do that now. If it's New English Library, Pinnacle, Belmont Tower, Manor Books, it doesn't matter what the genre it is, I will buy it, and typically regret it later. But it's so niche is good. Niche is good, Jules.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. When Eight Bells toll. I asked Alistair MacLean there, and this is by Jim, isn't it? Jim O'Brien.
And this is a great article because Jim tells an anecdote that his English teacher while he was at school said we're going to do For Whom the Bell Tolls, and Jim didn't hear it properly and assumed rather than the Ernest Hemingway book, it was Alistair MacLean's When Eight Bells Toll. So it's Jim's personal history with that. So it's a very personal and fun article.
It's an easy mistake to make, I'm sure. How we got away with it for a whole term, though? Yeah, perhaps not. This was great. This is your look here, isn't it? The first 100 duels. Your pick of the first 100. Good titles. I Want to Be Adored. Yes. Duels are having a revival, you know. Now, a few years ago, wasn't it? I bought most of your old duels, and I've since built on that collection. And I too would like to complete the first 100. I haven't got them yet. Maybe about 20 to get now. So I've filled in a few gaps, but there is some good stuff there, isn't there?
There is, and for me as a collecting challenge, to collect the first 100 with the doors with their yellow spines and their numbers was a really interesting collection. And I was fortunate in that my brother lives in America and I was visiting him regularly, so I was picking up the doors at $1 a time. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
But I don't think they necessarily published classics, although the year's best horror by Carl Edward Wagner is a brilliant anthology. But they did publish a lot of really interesting, like they led with a lot of female authors.
Great cover art.
French translations that no one else was doing. So I think they're a fun publisher to collect.
Absolutely. I think there 580 yellow spines.
Oh, is there?
Around that, and then it sort of goes into, they start experimenting a little bit. Then there's a few anomalies along the way, but it's a fun series to collect. I'm after their catalogues, you know. I've got a couple of period catalogues. I got one from 82 and maybe an 81, but I'd love some from the 70s, but they just don't turn up for sale. You know, they were issued, but they're not around.
I've got a Panther SF catalogue that I keep meaning to bring along for you because it's more you than me.
I love Panther SF.
So that kind of ephemera is difficult to get hold of.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't sit there, but that's a box of like catalogues and publishers stuff actually right next to you, waiting to be like bagged up and stuff. So
ready for me to steal when you turn your back.
And that's the end of the door article. But yes, some great stuff in there. And now we're looking at more genre fiction. This is I haven't actually got this far myself reading it. So Justin Marriot looks at works by authors in genres you wouldn't typically associate with them. So that's a Louis L'Amour, but it's not a Western. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I find really interesting is stumbling across books by an author in a genre you wouldn't expect them to be in. Yeah. And the one that kicked me off was someone I considered to be a horror author, Graham Masterton. Did a number of family sagas. So once I had spotted that, I started to find more and more, like John Brunner, there's SF author, doing some spy novels, Robert Sheckley, doing the same thing.
Asimov doing his crime books.
Asimov doing the crime. Marion Zimmer Bradley doing Gothic. So it's something that I'm not necessarily so interested in when people appeared under pseudonyms. Is when they actually use their actual name. You've got Guy Smith, author of Killer Crabs, doing a Sleeping Beauty Disney tie-in. It's a natural fit in my eyes. So I'm hoping that readers will write in with many more examples that I can continue to run.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's an interesting article. This is about as far as I've got, so I need to finish actually reading it. But there's that Graham Masterton one, isn't it? Yeah. The Filth and the Fury, John Farris. So this is an author I don't know a great deal about, this chap. What's this piece about?
Farris is probably best known as the author of The Fury, that was made by Brian De Palma into quite a commercially successful film. he also wrote a horror book called All Heads Turn As the Hunt Goes By.
Right, that's that one there.
Which is an amazing book. I've read it about 3 times.
Oh, wow.
I still don't really fully understand the book, to be honest, but it's a brilliant book.
Yeah.
So, and the Farris could sometimes introduce some slightly unsavoury elements to his work. Hence me calling it the filth and the fury. So he can be a difficult author.
Yeah.
So I try to balance what I see as the positive aspects of his work and maybe some of the more challenging aspects. But All Heads Turn, if you fancy a challenging horror read, is a top recommendation.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, we're coming to the end now. So, yes, he is head of children's horror. Yes, this was really interesting because, I mean, I must have seen this. It's sort of like, see, when I was a kid, I wanted the hardcore stuff, like the Pan Book of Horror Stories. You know what I mean? And I remember being read a couple of those short stories at school. The teacher would read us a couple of them. It was really cool, and because he knew we all loved them, really. But I do also remember some of these. It is quite funny, isn't it?
But it's interesting, Jules, because I'm the same as you.
Yeah.
When I was 10, I didn't want to read spooky stories. I wanted to read killer crabs.
Absolutely.
Scary
stuff.
So these were not necessarily titles I read as a kid, but it's stuff that I've collected since. And I think there's an interesting little story behind some of the horror anthologies, particularly how they reflected the adult horror anthologies. Fontana Horror Stories had an armada horror stories for kids with some of the same authors. So that's interesting.
Didn't Mary Danby work on some of them?
Absolutely. In the A to Z, for Q, Queen of Horror is Mary Danby.
Oh, well, there we go.
And when she was an editor, the last story in many of her anthologies were written by her.
Right.
And they were typically the highlight of the entire anthology, particularly one called Party Pieces.
That rings a bell.
And maybe we might talk about it later on another interview, but The Monster Trap by Peter Haining was actually read to me at school, and that kind of was a real formulative kind of experience as well.
That's interesting, isn't it?
God bless teachers reading you inappropriate material.
I wonder if that ever happens now. Probably not.
No.
Yeah, probably not. But I do recognise several of these. I think I might even have one of the Target books of horror. Maybe the first one. Yeah, well, maybe I'll see if we can dig that one out. But yeah, look at them all. I remember that one. That's quite... I think I got that one as well. Dennis Gifford, I definitely had that.
And that was a bit of a every public library seemed to have a copy of that book.
Yeah, I remember it really vividly. There's like the John Pertwee Book of Monsters. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Like a Godzilla head on the front. I might have that one.
And one of the books I feature in there, in the A to Z, I think I might do a celebrities one. And one of the books is called I've Seen a Ghost, and it's got 5 different celebrities on the front cover, all having seen a ghost. And it's like a picture of 70s TV. There's Kenny Everett on it. And I showed it to my kids and they had no idea who anyone on the cover was. So it's a nice time capsule.
Oh, brilliant. And sadly, that's the last page. But, well, all I can say is what a great issue that is, Justin. So if people would like to get their hands on a copy of this, please do. It is now available on Amazon worldwide. Well, thanks very much for coming along today, Justin, and showing us your latest issue. It's been fantastic. And, if you've enjoyed it at home, do please hit the like button. If you've not already, do please hit the subscribe button for regular vintage paperback action. And I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Jules.